Sphera.
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 This is Hyperturismos, a podcast by Maëlle Julou for the Sphera project. Available on EuroPod, the European podcast platform. Santorini is a whore. That's what I read in a Greek article when I woke up one morning.
Η Σαντορίνη, παιδί μου, είναι μία πόρνη.
My Santorini child is a prostitute. A prostitute that everyone wants. A prostitute that everyone will visit, from whom everyone will get something.
Και θα την παρατήσουν,
But no one will love her, and they will leave her without caring about her ever again. Hyperturismos, a podcast by Maëlle Julou for the Sphera project, available on EuroPod, the European podcast platform. Episode 2: Santorini is a whore.
Either you like her or you don't like her. There's not a middle way. I fell in love with her. I fell in love with her without knowing why. Many people came in Santorini and they got divorced after here. That's what I know.
Yannis is a musician, an artist, a romantic at heart. We discovered him in the first episode. In his words, there is always a touch of poetry, of philosophy, and of mythology to his home Santorini.
She's a lady for me. All of her name, Strongili, Kalisti, Avtomati, Santorini, Agia Irini, Sphera. All of her names is female names. All of her names is female, so she's a lady. And as a lady, she has temper. and she can extract blood and lava with full rage. You have to respect her as she is, and she gets crazy. She's making her botox. She's changing again her appearance. She always changes her appearance. She gets bloody. She can destroy everything. She doesn't care. Because that's her nature. This specific island cannot be sustainable, whatever you wish. So you cannot talk about sustainability in Venice because it's not going to exist in 20 years. It's mathematically is going there. You cannot speak about sustainability in the island of Santorini because it's unstable. In 1956, the whole island was destroyed because in a nearby island called Nisyros, it was an earthquake. And the current of the earthquake passed from the island here and destroyed the island. So this can happen again. It happened many times in the past and it can happen again.
Destruction bubbles under Santorini's surface and hovers in the clouds over its iconic cliffs. It can be hard to imagine building something long-term here. But the short-term pursuit, tourism, already negatively affects the way some locals live. One example is that they simply cannot keep up with the cost of life anymore. Pensioners like Yorgos are left in a difficult economic situation.
In this village, there used to live 100 families, and now they're all gone. They went to Athens. They sold anything they could sell, and they left. Some of them are coming back now. But only a small part of the people here earn a lot of money, and it's mostly the ones with hotels or vacation rentals. The rest of us, I have a very slim pension, for example, and I can't do much with it. Life here is expensive, very expensive.
It's the same for Ellie, a seasonal worker selling vintage dolls in the shop of Ia.
I think it will be a very expensive island for some very rich people. I don't know, because even now on the island there is some villages like Ia. It starts from 200 euros per night on the summertime. It's very expensive, and even shops, supermarkets, it's everything very, 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 very expensive.
When people tell me that the average rent is higher than the Greek minimum salary, it is clear that there is definitely a problem. Between 2014 and 2019, there was an increase of 23% in the total number of beds provided in hotels and Airbnbs. It's now reaching more than 70,000 tourist beds, compared with 15,000 locals. Walking around in the traditional Cycladic village of Eborio, far from the crowds, I saw hundreds of small signs on the doors. Dream Suites, Maria Villa, Aegean Rooms. It's now very difficult for locals to find a house to live in that isn't already an Airbnb.
The main problem that comes from that is essentially that obviously people can make in the first 2-3 days that they rent it out to visitors from international guests would be what they would make per month if they rented it to a school teacher, to a person working on the island, to someone who wants to live here all year round. It has been the case where over the last few years I've heard a lot of people who have come for work here and they haven't been able to find a place to stay, and they have to leave. Or you've had to even pay for extreme amount. So unfortunately, it's created huge issues with people not having a place to live as well, like permanent residence.
Who will do all the welcoming and driving and serving and cleaning on Santorini if no Greek can find or afford a place to live? Well, I heard about some solutions. Hotels are building dormitories to host their own staff, and I heard that the island's doctors are living all together in containers.
It's quite a significant thing that needs to be addressed. If you just leave it as is, it's not going to solve itself for sure.
My name is Vagia Skreka. I'm a teacher, and this year I am in a village of Santorini Island, and I teach children 6 years old. Teachers can't find houses. We came here to teach their children, the children of Santorini, and maybe we have to stay in a home that the owner is a parent of our children. But they don't care about that. They care more about money. It's not fair.
Even for people that can afford to stay on the island, the overwhelming presence of tourists can sometimes become unbearable.
People who live here cannot enjoy the landscape, the beaches, the restaurants, and generally the island at all.
Ellie, as a seasonal worker, has to beat the crowd every day in Ia to access the shop she's working in.
It's crazy, especially July, August. It's like so much people outside. I live about 500 meters from here, but I'm coming to work maybe 20 minutes, like very, very slow. It's a lot of people. You can't find to sit. People is everywhere, in the restaurants, in the roads, everywhere. It's crazy.
In this context, it's easy to feel alienated as a local. I met with Georgia, a teenager living here. She was hanging out on a square with her friends after school. I wondered what it was like for young people to grow up here and to share their daily lives with international travelers.
Life in the island is not so easy. The traffic, very much traffic. We can't go nowhere when it's traffic. It's very difficult. Yeah, the buses also. The bus is also a very important problem.
Ο Δήμος δεν προσέχει καθόλου τη Σαντορίνη.
Δεν ξέρω αν θα γίνει αυτό. The rabbis, the environment. We don't protect the environment here. I don't know why. The tourists just don't care, and it's very bad for the island. I think something should be done for this. It's very rude for the tourism to not protect our island because they visit it and they just don't care. And we live here.
They don't care.
Yeah, they don't respect us. And it's very rude about them.
But if the tourists are clogging the roads and the tavernas, leaving rubbish and destroying the island, why are they still being welcomed?
It's a very good holiday destination and everyone should come here to enjoy our island.
Nice tourism.
My parents have a hotel. My mom works there as a receptionist, and my dad helps her with the luggages for the tourists. It's a very good opportunity because my parents have already. We have tourism, so the economics are very good.
Right. When you survive from tourism, you have no choice. And the new generation has to play the game their parents started. We have arrived at a point where everybody depends on tourism, and the only options are to put up with the tourists or leave.
And then something happened, like nobody expect that Santorini will not have tourism one summer, but it was a summer that really looked like an endless spring. No boats in the sea, no cars on the road, nothing.
The pandemic hit Santorini hard. With travel restrictions, suddenly the airport was empty, the streets quiet, the beaches peaceful. My friend Thanos has been living in Santorini for a few years, organizing walking tours. He told me how seeing the island like that was an eye-opening experience for him.
I mean, at least the horizon was so clear and so peaceful. But still, the environment had been changed a lot. The hotels are there, empty or full, it doesn't matter. Have been changed now and forever. Maybe can be worse. And I think that all the last years give us some wisdom to protect what can we protect. What have been left to protect. I'm being emotional.
Thanos also happens to be a teacher in the Second Chance School. He teaches evening classes where adults are trying to get a high school level diploma. Only 13% of locals did higher studies after high school, as tourism was the only field of work.
I asked them, why now you choose to do that? And the answer that I received for my students is that the COVID and the lockdown and all that situation make us understand how much we depend to the incomes that came from tourism. I do have some villas and I have some good income from that. No people, no incomes, nothing. So they realized that you cannot eat at the villa. You have to do something. I have to finish my school. I mean, this is one summer. Maybe if it's be, I mean, I do still have some money. But if it be that for 2 or 3 summers, I will not have money anymore. What I will do? Without any paper of the school, you cannot apply for a job. Just to know how the situation of the last years of the pandemic changed also the way of the locals thought.
If tourism goes away, everyone will die. That's what Mr. Yorgos told me. To become more sustainable, the island needs to shift away from this single economy model, the mono-industry of tourism. Economy works like nature, and in nature, monocultures are failing. They leave the ground poor, bleeding. So Yorgos is trying to find ways for the island to survive without tourism. He sees cultivating the land as a way for people to have their lives in their own hands. A small minority of people in Santorini are going back to the land to invest in what the islands once did best: tomatoes, grapes, zucchini, fava beans. But keeping even a few square meters of natural land is a constant fight against investors hoping to build hotels.
They have to stop at some point. We won't have any fields left in the end, and fields are gold. I have some vineyards, and I refuse to sell them. I will keep them and then pass them on to my children to use for farming.
More and more buildings replace natural land every year in Santorini. Constructed areas already cover 18% of the territory, a huge number for a very small island long of 18 kilometers. I am curious to know how much over-tourism impacts the environment, the wildlife, and even the sea in Santorini. Let's dig into it in the next episode.